Hi there, pre-algebra students. This is chapter 5.7, Equations and Inequalities with Rational Numbers. In this lesson, we're going to learn to use least common denominators to solve equations and inequalities. Let's get started. So far, when we've been solving equations with fractions, we've been following these steps. Undoing any addition or subtraction in order to get variable terms alone on one side of the equation. We've also been multiplying both sides of the equation by multiplicative inverse of the coefficient of the variable terms. Another way to solve an equation with a fraction is to clear fractions or eliminate them by multiplying each side of the equation by the least common denominator of the fraction. The resulting equation is equivalent to the original equation. So today, we're simply going to learn how to multiply by the least common denominator to clear fractions. Let's move on to our first example. Let's work with this equation to learn how to clear a fraction. We have negative 5/6 plus 1/2 equals 3/4. So the first thing we need to do is find the least common denominator of the fractions. And that's going to be what? Right, it's going to be 12. So we're simply going to multiply each side of the equation by 12. Be careful. You need to ensure that you're putting the entire left half inside the parentheses. You're multiplying the whole thing by 12. Not just the negative 5/6, but the negative 5/6x plus 1/2. Now we're also going to multiply 3/4 by 12. Okay, now let's work our way across. Remember the distributive property. So we're actually going to be taking 12 times negative 5/6x plus 12 times 1/2 equals 3/4 times 12. Let's see, this will give us, if we cross reduce, negative 10x plus 6 equals, again, we can cross reduce here, 9. Okay, so now we have negative 10x plus 6 equaling 9. Let me give us a little bit more space to work here. And now let's continue to solve. Our next step will be to subtract 6 from each side to give us negative 10x equals 3. Now we'll divide each side by negative 10, giving us an answer of x equals negative 3/10. Let's work another example together. 1/2 x plus 7/10 equals 4/5. So our first object is to find the least common denominator, which is going to be 10. So let's multiply each side of the equation by 10. This will give us 5x plus 7 equals 8. Okay, I skipped a bunch of steps there. I did not show this distributive property. I just took 10 times 1/2 x and then 10 times 7/10. And I did not show my cross reducing, but I was pretty sure you would follow me. Our next step is to subtract 7 from each side, giving us 5x equals 1. Now I divide each side by 5, giving me a final answer of x equals 1/5. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 problems to try on your own now. Try these 2 problems on your own. Press pause while you work, and when we come back, we'll work on clearing decimals. Just as we're able to clear fractions from an equation, we can also clear decimals. Let's solve the equation 2.3 equals 5.14 plus 0.8m. Because the greatest number of decimal places in any of our terms with decimals is 2, we're going to multiply each side of the equation by 10 squared, or 100. So let's go ahead and multiply each side by 100. Okay, don't forget to use distributive property here. You don't have to write it separately if you can remember to do it in your head. So this will become 230 equals 514 plus 80m. Okay, see how that works? We simply got rid of all of our digits in the decimal place by multiplying the whole thing by 100. Now we solve by subtracting 514 from each side. 230 minus 514 gives us negative 284, being equal to 80m. Now we divide each side by 80, which will give us negative 3.55, being equal to m. I'll admit I did use my calculator for that. But there's our answer. Negative 3.55 equals m. Now let's learn to solve an inequality with a fraction. A sign in a clothing store says to take 1/3 off the marked price of a shirt. You have $20 in cash and a $5 gift card. What are the original prices of the shirts you can afford to buy? In other words, what can you afford to buy with your $25? Okay, so let's begin by setting up a verbal model. We need to calculate the original price, which I'm going to say is OP, minus 1/3 of the original price, minus the gift certificate amount needs to be less than or equal to your cash. Okay, so X for the original price minus 1/3 of X minus $5 needs to be less than or equal to 20. All right, now let's do what we can to solve for X. Okay, we can rewrite this portion of our equation as X times 1 minus 1/3. Just use distributive property to show that in a more simplified way. Minus 5 less than or equal to 20. Next, we need to simplify. 1 minus 1/3 gives us 2/3, so we have 2/3 X minus 5 is less than or equal to 20. Now let's move on to our next step. We need to move this 5, so we're going to end up adding 5 to both sides, giving us 2/3 X is less than or equal to 25. Now we multiply by the multiplicative inverse, which gives us X is less than or equal to 75 halves, which we can write as a dollar amount of $37.50, because 37.5 is half of 75. So you can afford to purchase a shirt whose original price is $37.50 or less. Now let's apply what we've just learned in this lesson to solve an inequality by clearing fractions instead. Our inequality says that negative 3/4 m minus 1/8 is less than or equal to negative 1/4. So let's begin by clearing our fractions. And we're going to clear our fractions by multiplying by the least common denominator, which in this case is 8. So we're going to take 8 times negative 3/4 m minus 8 times 1/8 is less than or equal to negative 1/4 times 8. Okay? So let's go ahead and solve those across. When we cross reduce here, we get 2 over 1, so we get 6m. Oops, don't forget the negative sign, negative 6m minus, this clears to 1, is less than or equal to, and 1/4 of 8, or 1/4 times 8, gives us negative 2. Now we move our 1 to get negative 6m is less than or equal to negative 1, because we added 1 to each side. Now we need to divide each side by negative 6. Don't forget, when we divide by a negative number, we have to change our inequality sign so it becomes m is greater than or equal to 1/6. So our final answer is m is greater than or equal to 1/6. That wraps up Chapter 5.7. When I see you tomorrow, we'll do more practice with clearing fractions and decimals using multiplication. See you then.